improvements and bright ideas, they're all going to be changes to our processes. So we need them, but you also have to be careful how to implement them. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel, where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And this video, it's about managing the change, managing ideas that come in. And it came from a viewer question, but it triggered in me basically, this, I really don't like the idea box, the idea management. We'll come to that one a bit later, also explain why I don't like it. But then this question triggered, but wait, there are so many more good ideas, improvement proposals than just this random idea box. We've got a whole set of things happening in our organization, and in fact, many of them we also make during structured problem solving and improvement projects, and we want the improvement. We want, therefore, the change also to happen, and we need to change processes to keep improving. That's the whole spirit of Kaizen. Now, how do you then manage those efforts? Because on the downside, if you've got teams left and right in your factory changing processes and just making different procedures, you are really running into the risk of damaging your operation, of damaging those processes. Some improvements, in fact, most improvements will really be an improvement, but there's also a couple of aspects to think about. If you want to make it easier to work somewhere, that should not go at the cost of safety, not of the person working there. Quite often, working in a safe way is a bit more cumbersome than quickly diving into the machine, so a productivity improvement might well harm people's safety. Or, and this is especially if you're working in food pharma, the food safety, the product safety as well. If we're going to take any shortcuts there, we are seriously damaging our product, but with that also risking even the lives of our consumers. Not a place where you want to go. So how do you balance that? How do you make sure that improvement is definitely going on? It's also possible for everyone to really get into improving the organization altogether, because that is what you want in a good Kaizen organization, but not letting it get out of hand, not letting it damage well thought out procedures. Now, not everyone is going to be an expert in quality management technology, maintenance and safety. You may wish this to be true, but you cannot get every operator in your whole factory on the same level as these specialists from the different support departments. In fact, you cannot generally even get the specialists from one department to become good at really understanding the specialisms and the, let's say, the concerns and the ways of thinking of another department. If this is already not possible, then don't expect your entire factory operational population to get anywhere near those levels of specialism. They should all be able to identify, when am I getting into a possible danger zone? That is something to really focus on. So not everyone has to be able to really understand what the effect and possible problems are and how to solve it, but almost everyone, and especially those who are charged with making changes or gatekeeping changes, they should be able to understand, when are we getting in a problem area. But okay, that is going into what we will be talking about, the management of change. Let's first discuss a little bit where are changes actually coming from, or proposed change and improvements, because there's a couple of basic things. You are already doing this, I hope. I mean, most organizations do this. When we're looking at the technical side of things, you have different jobs in maintenance, breakdowns where you just directly correct a line, but then when we get to repairs and modifications, so sort of corrective maintenance and more preventive or improvement maintenance, the repairs, generally you would say this is just getting back onto the standard. So we're not changing a standard here. Although if it happens a lot, we'll probably also go into improvements, preventive actions, but especially those modification requests. You would like to have a culture in your company where any operator of a line will also think about how to make their line better, how to modify the parts of the line slightly so that it doesn't only become better for themselves, but really for the line and for everyone working this line. But those modifications, those little changes, they are changes to your system. They are in this case changes to a machine, but to the machine, to the processes, to the methods that you use. So those, you want to catch them. You're probably already collecting them in your maintenance management system or through your mechanics technicians into what you plan to do with the lines. And that way you are getting a whole bunch of ideas of what to improve. Another typical topic that not all companies do already, but at least most would like to, and many already do, is specific improvement projects. So you know in advance that you are going to work on a problem or a set of standards or improving part of the performance. You have a team really checking the possibilities, understanding the physics of the project, of the process, and then suggesting improvements. Now, these improvements, again, they are changes. What we will generally see is that improvement projects, they have a sponsor. So this is usually the person responsible for the area where they are. It can also be a whole management or leadership team, which is quite ideal because then you also have someone from your technology department and your maintenance and your HR coming together with more the operational side. So you have a number of angles of looking at the proposed improvement. And what I generally see is that those improvement projects, they are pretty well embedded already in what would be a good management of change procedure, where you check with a couple of specialists, is this really a smart idea? Now, corrective and preventive actions, CAPAs, they can come from many places, but the main source of corrective preventive actions, and specifically when it's sort of written in this way, is your quality team. And then because we get internal and external audits, and if you are ISO or any type of linked system certified, you will get external auditors in. They will make recommendations and you are going to have to implement that. It will be taken up in your corrective and preventive action plan. Now here, it is generally the quality department or the person guiding this audit who sort of decides whether or not to do this, to make the changes, to vet that these actions are put into the system. Here, it is generally the maintenance team, so a maintenance planner or a reliability engineer or someone prepping the technical work, who decides whether to accept or not such a modification request. So we have a risk of being pretty one-sided. This time on the maintenance side. With improvement projects, I said, generally there is a sponsor or preferably even a management team sponsoring the improvements. But if you have a structured project management office or a continuous improvement office, something like that, like a department within your operation, specifically for performance excellence, continuous improvement, there's again quite a big risk that this becomes its own group and that they vet basically their own ideas and changes. So they all have a risk of being siloed in who makes the decision to yes or no change our processes. Then my idea box, the one that I already said I don't really like. I know that many lean companies really love the idea of sharing ideas, collecting ideas from visitors, but definitely also from everyone in their own organization. And yes, of course, sometimes there are wonderful ideas there. So why don't I like it? If you launch this without having a good management of change process operating and already having a pretty good basic level of having restored problems, having your quality management system, this goes a lot wider than just the quality department. This is basically your whole way of producing, your standard operating procedures done already, having picked up the low-hanging fruits of your improvement, then your organization is most likely not ready to implement all kinds of ideas. The ideas that come in are very often large things, big budget type of things, or the smaller things that are sort of quality of life. You may get wonderful things, wonderful ideas out of such a box that you think they can be easily implemented and will give a nice benefit. But also, from my experience, when your factory is not yet at a high enough level, then many of those ideas will simply not make it in your priority seeking. So first off, you need to have somebody also taking care of the idea box. Again, you would like to have a multidisciplinary view on that, so you will probably assemble someone from maintenance and from quality and from HR and from production to go together and have a sort of a committee to judge the ideas coming in. That costs a lot of time that they would probably want to spend on these type of ideas. And then the worst part, because you cannot yet prioritize and really implement the ideas that come in, you are going to have to tell many people in your organization who put in what they think is a wonderful idea that it was not selected. Now, especially if you also add a monetary price to that, which you often see, give your ideas, any idea that will be implemented, the idea generator gets $1,000 personally or to a charity of their choosing, something like that, right? So there's a prize attached to the idea that is implemented. You're getting hopes up. You are getting a relatively low quality of ideas because the people are not trained yet in good Kaizen and improvement thinking skills, because your organization is still immature in the lean journey, in the continuous improvement journey, and you cannot really free up the resources to implement those ideas. So you have a double reason to have a lot of rejections, and you are going to sap the motivation of the people putting their ideas in the box. And I don't think that it's worth it to do that for a couple of good nuggets of ideas that come out here. Now, if you have a good continuous improvement maturity, a good organization and culture already, then it might be a really nice thing, because this way you can get those nice Kaizen ideas about all kinds of processes that you are not really focusing on. You can get the daily experience of your whole organization in what else besides our production lines can we also improve, and how could we do it? And they'll probably pick it up themselves as well if you just give a little bit of budget and resources, or even a simple okay on changing processes. It can become a very strong method of getting improvement. My experience, don't do it in the early stages of your continuous improvement culture change. But when we do have all of these, it is super critical that we put something in place to check and steer what we are going to do. We need a management of change system. This will probably also be a committee in the end that vets specific ideas. But here we need to see, is it critical for our organization, for our processes? In that case, we'll probably really have to take a good look at it. But we don't want to put every small modification, improvement through this committee, because it creates a bureaucracy that is just going to, again, stifle the whole continuous improvement mindset. That is going to damage the motivation as much as a poorly implemented idea box can. So when do you put an idea to your management of change, your serious process, and when can the change be managed on a very local level? For this, I would say that there are three main things to look at. Safety, quality, and productivity, and generally also in that order. If the idea has a reasonable risk to deteriorate any of those three factors, I hope it also has a good benefit, otherwise you would not propose it, but then you really need to put it through a formalized management of change process, where you have the responsible person for an area, but also some support from usually the supporting departments like your safety team, your quality team. This is more the responsible person for the area themselves already. Technical support to check what the impact will be, how to mitigate those risks. If it is maybe not acceptable at all, good idea, but the risk for losing out on the quality of the product is too great, we will not do it. Maybe we'll do it with a validation and a project, things like that. Put it into your process. Now, this can be done, especially when you train basically the owners of these systems, that any time that they feel that there is a risk for safety, quality, or productivity, they submit that idea to your management of change committee, a standing meeting that comes together maybe every week, or when you have such an idea, it depends a bit on how many of these ideas are generated in your organization, to go over this, to have a discussion, and to give an okay, some additional questions, to decline the idea with a reasoning, of course. We want to keep the motivation up. But if it does not realistically impact safety, quality, or productivity, then we can also keep the implementation and the decision to implement at the local level, so to say. And what is the local level? This is as low as you are willing to go with management authority. So maybe it's, if we're talking production, your production manager, but maybe you will also say, our team leaders or shift leaders can make decisions on the area that they are responsible for. They just afterwards have to share it, or they are completely free. And my personal favorite is if you have autonomous management installed already in your organization, if you have an AM culture, then you will have AM teams for each of the lines, for each of the areas. They should become the owners of that area. So the AM team, it's the logical team to decide on improvements and changes in their own area. So anything that has a very low risk to negatively impact safety, quality, or productivity, the AM team of that line can make the decision. That is, I would say, the ideal situation, and it creates a lot of ownership. When you get to that stage, then also the idea box becomes seriously interesting. But before you get to that stage, think about what is needed to get, basically, to take a bit of a shortcut, your maintenance, your CI, and your quality team really involved in getting changes vetted or getting them implemented in a nice way. They should all know about your management of change procedure. They should know when to get it into this funnel. You will, of course, also from time to time check some of the changes and improvements that they did and did not submit to the management of change board, just to see, if we are looking at it with a couple of these members, would we also have said, yes, you are right, this is very low risk of deteriorating safety, quality, or productivity, or on the other hand, oh, actually, we would have liked you to have submitted these changes because there are risks. So you calibrate your people as well. This is training, this is competence building, it's making the culture. These departments, they can usually find their way into the management of change board, the management of change procedure, because also in that club, in that board, you want people from all of these departments. Now, when I said the things that do not probably negatively impact safety, quality, or productivity, they can be solved on the local level. That is also here. If you really want to boost your autonomous management culture, you make sure that any modification by the technical team, any improvement project, any changes, actions done from external audits into your processes, those teams, those improvement teams, problem-solving teams, reliability engineers, they have to come to the AM team, present their idea, and ask for permission from basically the operators of that line, of that area, to implement the idea. They have to convince them that it is a good idea, take them along in the journey, and make sure that it is immediately adapted also by the main operators and the champions of that line. Now, you can imagine that if you can get that really working, this management of change procedure, it will actually no longer be a motivation stopper. It will become an engine for involvement and better adaptation of improvements by your operation. That is really a strong potential that you can unlock by making sure that all of these changes, they get checked. Is there a risk that our management really needs to make a decision about? If there is not, who is actually responsible for this line, for this area, for this process? Get them involved, especially if it is a small team of the people actually doing that process. Now, I hope you like this explanation of what in practice many people would consider the boring part of improvement, because it just slows down the pace, but it's a very key element. So if you liked it, don't forget to hit that like button. And no, you can ask me any question what to explain in this whole world of CI and Lean in the comments, because I make the videos also based on your input. For now, I wish you the best of luck with managing your changes. And as always, don't forget to enjoy the continuous improvement journey.